नाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रेः
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजनाभाय
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजमालिने
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमः पंकजनेत्राय
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे
नमस्ते पंकजांघ्रे Synonyms: Namaha. All respectful obeisances.
All respectful obeisances.
Pankajanabhaya.
Pankajanabhaya.
Unto the Lord who has a specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen.
Unto the Lord who has a specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Obeisances.
Obeisances.
Pankajamaline.
Pankajamaline.
One who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers.
One who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Obeisances.
Obeisances.
Pankajanetraya.
Pankajanetraya.
One whose glance is as cooling as a lotus flower.
One whose glance is as cooling as a lotus flower.
Namahate.
Namaste.
Respectful obeisances unto you.
Respectful obeisances unto you.
Pankaja angrahe.
Pankaja angrahe.
Unto you the soles of whose feet are engraved.
Unto you whose are engraved
with lotus flowers.
With lotus flowers.
And who are therefore said to possess lotus feet.
And who are therefore said to possess lotus feet.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Translation with repetition. My respectful obeisances are unto you,
my respectful obeisances are unto you,
O Lord,
O Lord,
whose abdomen is marked with a depression
whose abdomen is marked with a depression
like a lotus flower,
like a lotus flower,
who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers,
who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers,
whose glance is as cool as the lotus,
whose glance is as cool as the lotus,
and whose feet are engraved with lotuses.
and whose feet are engraved with lotuses.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Here are some of the specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead which distinguish his body from the bodies of all others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Sudras, the labor class, and the Dvijabandhus, or the wretched descendants of the higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Archa Vigraha, who descends to the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the above mentioned women, Sudras, and Dvijabandhus. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes, such as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen, and thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore, the Lord is known as Pankajanabhi. The Pankajanabhi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, his transcendental form, in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made up of wood, a form made up of earth, a form made up of metal, a form made up of jewel, a form made up of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. And there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees, always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to the women, Sudras, and Vijabandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different forms made for them. Such temple visitors are not idolaters, as alleged by some men with a poor fund of knowledge. All the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places just to favor the less intelligent, and one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship while one is actually in the category of the Sudras and the women are less. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet because the Lord might feel ashamed. And thus Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, that is from the waist of the Lord, gradually rising to the face and then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is in order. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I was thinking probably this is transcendental arrangement of the Lord, that the PPT is not working in the last second. The reason being, this verse has to be felt. felt from within. Because this verse, in one of the letters, actually Prabhupada writes to one of his disciples, there are two verses from Kunti Maharani's prayer which every one of us we should memorize and remember. The verse that we chanted in the previous class and the verse that we are chanting today. Very beautiful verse. So the whole series of Kunti Maharani's prayers are amazing if you can see it together and how they are closely knit like a thread which is holding them together. As we had in the previous one, the first one which Kunti Maharani prays, Kunti Uvacha Namasye Purusham Tvadyam Ishwaram Prakrite Param Alakshyam Sarva Bhutanam Antar Bahiravastitam Maya Javanika Channam Agyadhokshajam Abhyayam Nalakshase Mudhadrasha Nato Natya Dharo Yatha Yatha Paramahamsanam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartham Katham Pashyema Hi Striya. Then the next two, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrehe. So Prabhupada says these two verses, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namo, and this one, Namo Pankajanabhaya Nama Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrehe. Everyone should memorize, and it builds a personal relationship with Krishna. First verse, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha, has got 5 names of Krishna. Krishnaya, first name. Vasudevaya, second. Devaki Nandanaya. Mind you, Devaki, that ki is a long E. It's not Devaki. So when you have to chant, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha, that ki is long. Devaki. And ki is actually, what do you call that in Hindi, the first one, the lamba, the long, short and long, the long one, long E. So Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa. So first is Krishnaya, Vasudevaya, Devaki Nandana, Nanda Gopa Kumara, fourth. Fifth is Govindaya. 5 names of Krishna. Very easy to remember. Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Devaki Nandanaya Cha, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. You fold your hand and offer your obeisances. Now she is talking about Krishna, who has got some special bodily features. Very easy to remember, but also gives us a distinguishing factor between Krishna's Satchidananda body and that of body that is made up of us, like made up of gross matter. Krishna's body is not like that. So what are the distinction which Kunti Maharani brings in this prayer? 4 things. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, the abdomen which has got depression like a lotus flower. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya. Usually we start meditating from the lotus feet, but as Prabhupada points in the purport towards the end, Kunti Maharani being elder and aunt to Krishna, and she didn't want to put in an embarrassing situation for Krishna by meditating on her lotus feet. But Prabhupada is saying that it is going in the cyclic order, so everything is fine. So she starts with navel. It's easy to remember, but people get confused when they chant this verse. Which Pankaja comes first? Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre. So it is going, so if you see from navel, it is going to the lotus flower, because it just comes above the navel. Then comes the eyes, and then she is coming down to the feet. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre. At least one prayer, this is offered by the pure devotee, and if we can recite and can remember this, it's wonderful. Of course, the first memory, if we recite this before the Lord, will come of Kunti Maharani. Okay, this devotee is chanting Kunti Maharani's prayer. Kunti Maharani's remembrance will come first. But at least we will get the purification by chanting the prayers. Actually, the lecture that Prabhupada has given, I will read that particular portion, very interesting, where Prabhupada is saying, even if we don't understand one word of Bhagavatam, but if we chant sincerely, simply by hearing or chanting the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can be purified. Whatever knowledge exists in the world is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. It includes literature, poetry, astronomy, philosophy, religion, and love of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam is Puranam Amalam. If one simply reads Srimad Bhagavatam, he gains the topmost education. For if one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he will be well versed in every subject matter. Even if one does not understand a single word of the mantras of Srimad Bhagavatam, the vibrations themselves have such power that simply by chanting one will be purified. Srinvataha Swagataha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. So it's very powerful. Even if we don't understand even one word, Prabhupada is saying, simply by chanting and if one simply reads Srimad Bhagavatam, he gains the topmost education. That simply by chanting one will be purified. So what is the title of today's class? Teachings of Queen Kunti. Okay, wake up. Smile on your face, Rajesh. What is the title? The title of today's class is, if you have seen the poster, which hardly you see, is called The Vision of Lotuses. And these titles are as given by the devotees of Srila Prabhupada for the lectures that Prabhupada has given. So till the just last 1 minute or something, I can put that one picture of lotus. And Prabhupada in the lecture, he begins that if one sees a lotus flower, one can immediately remember Krishna. It's so powerful, you see. And Prabhupada gives the example that a mother, when she sees a child's any cloth or garment or shoes or something like that, a plaything, immediately the mother gets a memory of the child. Similarly, lotus is so pure, so pristine, so quintessential that even though it is of the material world, but even though it is in the material world, it is not of the material world. So if one sees a lotus flower, beautifully blooming lotus flower, one can immediately remember Krishna. Actually, it requires, our mind needs to, it should not rush through these things. Nama Pankaja Navaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre. Ho gaya, next verse. No. So you visualize how this lotus petal, how soft it is. And the abdomen of the Lord, the very beautiful description of Prabhupada. He's writing in the translation, my respectful obeisances unto you. How many times Kunti Maharani is telling Nama, Nama, Nama? Every single line. Nama Pankaja Navaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre. And every line has also got Pankaja, 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 Pankaja. 4 Pankajas. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower. The lotus flower has a depression. So your abdomen is marked like that is why the name of the Lord is Pankajanabhi, which Prabhupada is mentioning. From the navel of the Lord comes out a lotus, and on that lotus comes Brahma, who does the secondary creation. Brahma doesn't have a father and mother, that's why Brahma is called. Brahma is called? Very good. Brahma doesn't have a father and mother, so that's why Brahma is called second. What is the name? Sanskrit? Swayambhu. Brahma is called Swayambhu because it doesn't have any father and mother. So with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. So if you see closely, even the disciples of Prabhupada, when they draw, you see the garland that they have made Krishna wear, it is made up of lotuses. Lotus is very dear to Krishna. Who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glances, but he's not Pankaja Netraya, Nama Pankaja Namahaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre. So Nama Pankaja Netraya, Prabhupada is not translating as who has got lotus eye. Of course, the Lord's eyes, it resembles the petals of lotus. But Prabhupada is saying who are always decorated with, whose glance is as cool as the lotus. Actually, this is a very interesting thing. The lotus is always very cool. Even though it grows when there is sunshine, ample sunshine, then only the lotus grows. But when you have it, when you bring it, when you pluck it and bring it, the lotus is very cool. So the translation is whose glance is as cool as the lotus. And why the cooling glance of the Lord is required? because we are burning in this material forest fire, samsara, davanala, we are burning in this. So the lotus glance of the Lord, just the glance of the Lord, is so powerful. It can extinguish all this fire of the burning of this material world. So Prabhupada is saying if one sees a lotus flower, one can immediately remember Krishna. Any verse of Bhagavad Gita which talks about Padma? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Sunichena Sopakecha Pandita Samadarshina. Now where is Brahma? Padma Patra Mibham Bhasa. In that chapter it comes. Brahmani Adhaya Karmani. Karmam Karotiha Panduranga. Get the verse. Brahmani Adhaya Karmani. 5th chapter. Padma Patra Mibham Bhasa. Same. Padma Patra Ibhambhasa. Padma Patra, you can see big lotus leaf, but it is untouched by the water. One of the beauty of lotus is it grows in mud. That's why it is called Pankaja. Brahmani Adhaya Karmanik. Nachalim. Patram Ibhambhasa. 5.10. So this verse says that even though we are in the material world, if we engage in devotional service, we can remain untouched by the contamination of the material world. Such powerful things, isn't it? That's why lotus is very dear to the Lord. Anyway, I spoke about this particular picture where the disciples of Prabhupada also have drawn the garland which Krishna is wearing is made up of lotuses. Minute details, but that's been very very beautifully being brought out by the instruction of Srila Prabhupada. So the first thing that I want to talk about in this, actually there are a lot of wonderful points if you see. Of course, if we have our strong false ego, one of the things which will pinch is how many times Sri Sudra, what is that? Dvijabandhu, Sri Sudra Dvijabandhu, Sri Sudra Dvijabandhu, Sri Sudra Dvijabandhu comes. And if somebody thinks I'm a Stri, Gaya, I'm just not fit, I'm not qualified. But Prabhupada actually, you see, this is the power, purity and conviction of an Acharya who does not compromise while sharing the Supreme Absolute Truth as it is to people. Even in those days when Prabhupada came, this is in 1965-66, he would have tried to please this and would have kept it aside and not mentioned about this, or could have said that, okay, because there are so many women disciples who were in American bodies who were very eager, enthusiastic, and they were very determined to do so much of service, and Prabhupada says that they're all equal. But he could have avoided this. But there is a reason why this is mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. Actually, people quote Manusmriti, Manu Samhita, where it is mentioned about this particular thing, and also in Bhagavad Gita at various places it is mentioned. So Prabhupada says, actually we should not fall for this modern world propaganda, where it is mentioned that women should be independent. So, and Prabhupada goes on to say, if there is a child, who goes for abortion? Who has to bear the pain of having the child? The disposition of women is different. They're made differently. So in the name of independence, equality, actually the modern men try to exploit the innocent women. And that's why Prabhupada says that the women are of separate, they are made up of different bodies, they're meant for different things. But when we fall for this thing and when we go for that belief that we can also be, women can be the same as men, then they get exploited. Of course, the Vedic scriptures are not discriminating in a manner which is derogatory, because if somebody really reads, actually women are given special importance, special privilege. So like Manu Samhita, I was just seeing that it is mentioned that like a special jewel which is always protected, similarly women who are considered to be very special in the society, in this fabric of human society, are always protected. Protected by their father when they're young, protected by the husband when they're married, and protected by the elder son when they're old. So they're always protected. Even if you see in Bhagavatam elsewhere, it is mentioned the moment Duryodhan and company disrobed or insulted Draupadi, that time they already have drawn the curtain that this is the end of their dynasty. So disrespect to a woman actually is just matter of time when that person will be finished. So without understanding the context, if people get into this thing and first of all we have to understand, if it is pinching, that means we are so much in the bodily concept of life. There's just the spirit soul which is which is covered with this body of a man or a woman, but we strongly identify with that, and it can hurt. But the first thing that I want to talk about here is, if you see sometimes, this politicians, of course this slide is not this thing, politicians, they go to some slums or they go to some places where for the sake of getting some votes, some minorities or something, and they embrace these people. So the word which is used here, so we have to be very careful in seeing these words chosen very specifically, very particularly by Prabhupada. He's telling, because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes as the Garbhodakashai Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes. Sometimes these big politicians, they do it for some political mileage. They go and meet some people who are very commoners. They drink tea or they embrace them to take some photographs and do some publicity. So they are bringing down their position to a position which is lower, just to be at par with them. That is the meaning of the word condescends. So the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, to have compassion on these fallen conditions. All of us are Sudras. There is nobody who should think that I am some very big qualified person. We are all Sudras, whatever Dvijabandhus, women, whatever class we may be. Having compassion in his heart, the Lord condescends to come as Archa Vigraha, so that we cannot see and fathom anything other than matter. So the Lord comes as metal, Radha Krishna Chandra. He comes as marble, Radha Damodar, Radha Vrindavan Chandra. He comes as stone, he comes as wood, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra. So like that, the Lord descends, he condescends. The word used is condescends, so that people like us, we can visualize the Lord in this material form, because that is what we can perceive with our blunt material senses. And the Lord is willing to accept service in the form of this Archa Vigraha. This is the first thing which Prabhupada mentions in this purport. The Pankajanabhi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, his transcendental form, in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made up of wood, a form made up of earth, a form made up of metal, a form made up of jewels, a form made up of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of the lotus flowers. But before Prabhupada goes there, he brings the difference or the distinction between the bodily parts of the Lord and that of any ordinary person. Here are some specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguishes his body from all the bodies of others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. One of the specific bodily features which is mentioned is, so if you see your palms, what do you see? How many of you are palmists? Rajendra? Do you know a little bit? Little bit. So we have all our lines, and people think, those who are a little familiar with palmistry, if this line would have been a little longer, maybe I would have had a little more lifespan, or I would have had some luck or intelligence. And if I look at my feet, probably some lines are there and cracks are there, but nothing much. But Lord's lotus feet is not like that. Lord's lotus feet has got so many important things. One of them is the lotus. There are many other things which is there in the lotus feet of the Lord, and that's how the Lord is different, distinguished. When Akrura came And when he saw the imprints of the Lord, how can somebody recognize that these are the imprints of the Lord? So maybe, chota feet or big feet or whatever it is, how will you know that this is Lord's lotus imprint, Lord's lotus feet imprint? It is possible because the imprint of the Lord is different, is distinct from that of us. So what is there in the Lord's lotus feet? So it is a very beautiful verse which comes in the Bhagavatam. It's in the 3rd canto. It says, Sanchintayad Bhagavatas Charanara Vajrankusha Dvaja Saroruha Lanchanadhyam Uttunga Rakta Vilasan Nakha Chakravala Jyotsnabhir Ahata Mahad Dhridayan Andhakaram. The devotee should first concentrate his mind on the Lord's lotus feet, which are adorned with the marks of a thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. So these are very specific. Thunderbolt, a gourd. Gourd is, Vajra is thunderbolt, which is used by Indra. A gourd is something which is used by the Mohant, like the one who's sitting on an elephant. If the elephant is not listening, they pierce it with something very sharp. That's called the gourd. You can see if you see the picture of Lord's lotus feet, I had that, but unfortunately it's not there. A thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner. Banner is an insignia or a flag, and a lotus. So there are the 4 things which are mentioned, which is there. The Lord's lotus feet is adorned with this marks of thunderbolt, a gourd, a banner, and a lotus. The splendor of their beautiful ruby nails resembles the orb of the moon and dispels the thick gloom of one's heart. We've talked about this many times earlier, but the process of having darshan of the Lord, it starts with the lotus feet. First vision should go to the lotus feet. Unfortunately, people who are not trained, even sometimes all of us, we also come and look at the lotus face of the Lord first. No, actually the first meditation should be on the lotus feet, as it is mentioned here. Sanchintayad Bhagavatas Charanaravindam. Starts with Aravinda, the Lord's lotus feet. Then it goes further to the thighs, to the abdomen, and finally our vision should just be absorbed on the lotus face of the Lord. That we will see. It's a very beautiful verse. This is all given by Kapila Muni to his mother Devahuti in the 3rd canto, which he speaks. Then he speaks about this verse. Hasam harer avanata khilaloka tibra sokasru sagara vishoshana mati udaram sammohanaya rachitam nijamaya yasya bhrumandalam munikrite makaradhvajasya. Hasam harer avanata khilasoka Hasam harer avanata khilaloka tibra sokashru sagara vishoshana mati udaram. You may have so much of difficulties, so many miseries, so many problems, so many grief, so many losses, so many whatever challenges in life. But if you come and just stand before the Lord with folded hands, not eyes closed, but looking at the lotus face of the Lord, starting from the lotus feet, having come to the lotus face, when you look at the smile of the Lord, Hasam harer avanata khilaloka tivra sokashtu sagara vishoshanam mati udaram. Avanata khila, with bow down, with the position of humbleness, when you stand before the Lord and concentrate, meditate on the smile of the Lord. Actually, the Lord smiles. If you see very closely, if we are in the right mood, if we have chanted properly, and if we have done proper devotional service and heard, then we can see the beautiful smile of the Lord. Doesn't appear all the time. Hasam hare ravanata khilaloka tibra sokashru sagara vishoshanam ati udaram. Tivra soka, intense grief. How much it is? Ashru sagara, ocean of tears, can be vishoshanam, can be dried up by ati udaram, because he is most compassionate. That smile of the Lord. Everything we can forget by looking at that. Sammohanaya rachitam nijamaya yasya bhrumandalam munikrite makaradhvajasya. And anybody who is a yogi or a sadhaka should also meditate on the eyebrows of the Lord. Eyebrows of the Lord. Sammohanaya rachitam nijamaya yasya bhrumandalam munikrite makaradhvajasya. The yogi should also meditate on the Lord's arched eyebrows, which are manifested by his internal potency in order to charm the sex god for the good of the sages, who is tormented by lusty desires and doesn't know what to do, how to come out of it. It's not easy. It requires divine intervention. Then one should meditate on the eyebrows of the Lord. This is what Kapila Muni says to Mother Devahuti. Starting from the Lord's lotus feet, one should go, and then all the way to the lotus face and focus there. Absorb our glance on the Lord's lotus face. The one of the other things which Prabhupada mentions in the purport, which is very significant, is all such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of the of lotus flowers, and there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees, always engaged in material wranglings. Actually, this sentence is so powerful. There should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotee, always engaged in material wranglings. People are always engaged in that. There used to be a jeans brand, Wrangler, isn't it? In India, it was. In the US also, it is there, Wrangler. So material wranglings. What is material wranglings? Yeah, messed up, Wrangler. So material wranglings. People who are too disturbed. I mean, all of us, the material people are. So many things are going on in the mind. How many complications? I have to do this, I have to achieve that, I have to go this, I have to do this. Children had something going on in their lives, parents are having some issues, partners is having something going on, all kinds of things. So material wranglings, when people are having this material wranglings, and they are burning. The burning is coming because I want to be the enjoyer, I want to be the controller, but I can't be, unfortunately. So when that doesn't happen, it creates a sense of envy and a jealousy. Somebody else is having, I'm not having. I'm not able to achieve what I want to. I'm limited by resources. I'm limited by material energy. So I'm feeling that there is a burning always inside. So the soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship is meant to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees, always engaged in the material wranglings. Mind you, the soothing atmosphere is not only referring to some material objects. It is also the devotees who are there, who are having that compassion in their heart. You know, imagine if there is all nice, beautiful palace which is built. Everything is nice in that place, but people are fighting. So there are 2-3 people who are fighting, and somebody comes. He sees that this is a temple and I'm supposed to get some peace over here, but what's going on? And he'll run away. So soothing atmosphere is when the devotees are properly fixed in their right consciousness. And that can, people can feel that. There is a sense of, there's a sense of where, person feels I should open up. I should ask these questions. I should share my grief. I should express that. That actually captures the burning attention of the non-devotees, always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to the women Sudras. So I will read a particular portion of this lecture which Prabhupada has given on this verse, which talks about the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and how it is so powerful. Even if somebody comes accidentally hears, as it is mentioned there, even if you don't understand one word of that verse, but if you chant, it purifies us. So we will see that. So the 3-4 things, I'm going little here and there. The first thing that Prabhupada is talking about is the form of the Lord, how it is distinct. And we saw that, the meditation has to start from the lotus feet all the way to the lotus face. And how the Lord condescends. He, out of his infinite compassion, he descends. He comes as material form, so that people all of us who are in the material consciousness can worship the Lord, can approach the Lord, can engage in his devotional service. And the third thing which Prabhupada mentions in the purport or in the lecture is this particular portion, which you can pay attention to, very interesting. Similarly, simply by hearing or chanting the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can be purified. Whatever knowledge exists in the world and is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. It includes literature, poetry, astronomy, philosophy, religion, and love of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam is pramanam amalam. If one simply reads Srimad Bhagavatam, he gains the topmost education. For if one studies Srimad Bhagavatam, he will be well versed in every subject matter. Even if one does not understand a single word of the mantras of Srimad Bhagavatam, the vibrations themselves have such power that simply by chanting one will be purified. Shrinvataha swakataha Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha. The word punya means pious, shravana means hearing, and kirtana means chanting. One who chants or hears the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam becomes pious automatically. Simply punya shravana kirtana, just hears chants, he becomes pious. Punya Shravana Kirtana. To become pious, one generally has to endeavor a great deal. But if one simply hears the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, one becomes pious automatically. Therefore, it is a rigid principle in every temple of our Krishna consciousness movement that there must be a daily class for hearing and chanting. Our movement is meant for training the spiritual leaders, but without hearing and chanting, it is impossible to become a leader. Of course, in the material world it is possible, but not in the spiritual world. And Prabhupada quotes a very beautiful thing from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mali hana sei bijakare aropana, shravana kirtana jale karaya sechana. Hearing and chanting waters the seed of devotional service, which develops one's original consciousness. So here in this prayers, Kunti Devi, a great devotee, is giving us an opportunity to become Krishna consciousness simply by concentrating our mind on Pankaja, the lotus flower. So this is very interesting, this is very beautiful, which Prabhupada talks about. And there is one story which Prabhupada narrates in connection to this, about how people in this material world get fooled without knowing who the Supreme Lord is and fall for every single thing. Like for example, there was this few years back, there was this Kali Bhagavan, whoever was very popular, or something like that. You know, there are different times people come who claim themselves to be God, and there are innocent people who fall for it. So there is, Prabhupada says there are some people who produce this magic ash, and somebody falls for it. And Prabhupada's claim or challenge is, if somebody is calling himself as God, know for sure that he is dog. So he gives an example of one fox who was passing through a village, and there was a blue dye which was kept by the washerman, and this fox falls into that tub of blue dye, and when it comes out, it had the hue of blue color. So it realized now he has become blue and there is nothing that he can do about it. The color is not going, so he walks in as it is. So his face, his body, his legs, everything has become blue. So he goes to the forest, and then people look at him for the first time and they see that this person, this something new is coming from probably somewhere else. So he also sensed that people are not able to understand who really he is. And he took advantage of that, saying that I have been sent by the Lord directly. I'm coming from there. So they all considered he is something very special, and they made him the king. Even the king of the jungle, lion, he brought some very special delicacies for him to eat and enjoy. Everybody started worshipping him. But then this foxes, they have a very peculiar habit. Prabhupada makes that sound in the class. They howl in the evenings. And if one fox howls, then everybody howls together. They can't restrain, they can't control that. He was able to control it for some time, for a few days inside a cave he was doing that. But one day when he was all by himself, alone outside, he just couldn't resist and he started howling. Then everybody came and started, attacking him and killed him. Something like that happens to many of us. We would have seen somebody claims that he is God. He's got some divine powers, people start worshipping, and soon they realize that he's not able to even control his senses, not able to control his bowel movement. That's what Prabhupada says. What kind of God he is? So God is God, and we are human beings. There is no comparison. We can't be him. But there is a process by which we can hear, by which we can know. It's not like in the moment you say, okay, we are worshipping God, so somebody first question that they ask is, have you seen God? Yeah, for seeing God, you need to have qualification. And Prabhupada says, Primanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hridayeshu Bilokayanti Yam Syama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. If our eyes are anointed with love, Primanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, with love and devotion, we can see the Lord. So there is a qualification which is needed to see the Lord. Unless we have that qualification, how can we see the Lord? First you deserve, then you desire. This is in the material world they say. First you deserve, first you have the qualification, then you can desire. We don't have that, and we expect the Lord to be our order carrier. But even for an argument's sake, if you say that, okay, you can't see the Lord and Lord is not our order carrier, that argument also can be broken because the same Lord became the order carrier for Arjuna. How was it possible that the Lord agreed to become a charioteer of Arjuna, order carrier of Arjuna, because of his love and devotion? Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattvata. So engaging in devotion in the parampara, coming through Srila Prabhupada or pure devotees, we can actually experience Lord face to face. It's not post-dated check. It's not something which cannot be understood or experienced. We can have a tangible experience. I will stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Of course, one last thing is, since we are talking about Pankaja, and Prabhupada is talking about how this characteristic of Pankaja is something which is so inspiring for all of us. When we are there in this material world, how we can remain untouched by the waters or the contamination of the material world. One should always remember that by looking at the example of Pankaja. Any question, any thoughts?
On his abdomen and the feet.
What is that? Depression on the?
On the feet and the
engraving,
navel.
whatever is there. Is there any pastime? No, I mean, the Lord is special. Why he's having those particular marks, even I don't know. Maybe if, no? I don't know. But that's what makes him distinguished. That's what makes him special. That's what... it's very common tendency to consider the Lord to be like us, human-like, when he comes, especially when he comes as Ram or Krishna and he does this human-like activities, we consider him to. So that's why people say Mera Bal Krishna, Radha and all those things. But there's a gulf of difference between our body and the Lord's lotus, Lord Sachidananda body. And one of the things is the imprints or the engravings on the Lord's lotus feet. I'll find out if at all if there is any reason for having those things. Yeah.
He also had.
Yeah, even Nityananda Prabhu has, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has. Radharani also has.
There is a picture that floats around on WhatsApp of baby, the feet of the Lord with golden feet covered with imprints. Comes during Akshaya Tritiya every year. It's not ISKCON related, but some temples.
We're talking about feet. You're talking about Lord's form, where everybody is having 400 form, but the Kaustubha jewel makes it different, which only Lord has and others don't have. But they'll all be having 400 forms, similar to Sarupya, same form as that of Vishnu. Any other question?
I want worry observation / question.
Okay.
I just came back from India, and regarding these false gods, like how the fox tries someone else. In India now, everybody is trying to become a god, and I was talking to someone. They are like devotees of Shirdi Sai Baba. And when I spoke with them, the proof that Bhagwan Sri Krishna is the creator is because he showed Vishwarupa. And what they did is, everything from our scriptures they copied. Now they are showing, Shirdi Sai Baba also showed Vishwarupa. We have Vishnu Sahasranam, they have the Sahasranam. So this rise of false gods and also the increase in the number of foolish followers is concerning in our homeland, Prabhu. So just wanted to share that observation.
A very valid observation, and there are many innocent people who fall for it. So forget about Shirdi Sai Baba. Maybe he was some kind of mystic or something. I've seen there are pictures of Jesus Christ, having a flute in his hand. Somebody has drawn. Or even there is a Vaikuntha Dwara made for Jesus Christ in the church, so that people can come. Jesus Christ is same as Krishna, something like that. So how do we ensure ourselves, or how do we understand that we are not falling prey to that? There are three things which is very important when we want to verify something, whether it is true or not, whether it is authorized or not. Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Three things. So you have to hear it from the pure devotee's mouth, Guru. There is nothing, there is no lie in their sayings. They speak the absolute truth. Shastra, they have enunciated the absolute truth as it is. And sadhus, the devotees of the Lord who are trying to follow the path of devotion. So if it is verified with these three things, then it can be considered as, you can come to a conclusion. Otherwise, it's just somebody claims something and then there is no basis for it. Falling for that is foolishness. Unfortunately, in our country, there are a lot of such mad followings. The pure devotee of the Lord will never say that he is God. He would direct him to the Lord and he will show what is the path. They don't belong to this world. They come from Vaikuntha, sent by the Lord with a purpose to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls, to re-establish our lost relationship with the Lord. They would never say that we are God or worship us or something like that. So let's chant one more time. It's a very beautiful verse. Without seeing. So who